Hey everyone, welcome back to Journey with PKD on this New Year's edition. I want to wish everybody a happy New Year's wherever you may be. Perhaps you catch this message in the new year already, so you're already in 2023. But if you're still closing out your 2022, close it out strong, and we'll head into 2023 with a new, fresh outlook. And that's what this episode is about today. New Year's and maybe a different way to look at it. From one perspective, when it comes to the journey, you can see New Year's as what is called a threshold guardian. So a threshold guardian, we'll go over more in depth in these terms in 2023. You can think of as like a marker or barrier to growth for the heroic journey. These can be portrayed in movies and films and television and stories and books and all sorts of things as dragons, actual physical dragons, mythical dragons, that are there to prevent the hero from accessing the treasure, or the psychological kind of dragons and hurdles that we face, spiritual dragons, excuse me, that we face in trying to go to the next level. So it can be a physical encounter, bandits on a road, physical trials you must go through, actual tests, but it can also be something psychological, like trying to ask out the girl you always wanted to ask out, or overcome a fear, an obstacle that you've faced for a long time. So typically, threshold guardians can be seen as markers for change, but they serve very, very important functions. And I think it's a good connection and way to think about New Year's as we come to this close culturally, where everybody's kind of anticipating the next chapter together. And that's where you have this very interesting energetic force. And it's not quite like spring. So you've got a renewal energy in spring cleaning, spring forward, Easter, leaves start changing, sun starts to gain again, astronomically speaking. The light starts to come back after the equinox. It heads to the summer solstice. But right now, we just finished the winter solstice, and we're still in the time to lay seeds. And I think that's a different kind of energy. That's what New Year's can be. And so I wanted to highlight some of the traps that can be there with New Year's, and maybe how to avoid them and navigate them in a different way. So there's a couple of ways to think about New Year's. There's an inventory aspect where you can take a day or a season and you can kind of look back and see these different highlighted points that you may have liked, may have not liked, and what you'd like to improve. Really take inventory. I know Alcoholics Anonymous AA does this, where you really seriously can take inventory of your life and get very, very specific of people that you may have harmed, things you need to take responsibility for. It can go very deep, but you can see your whole year as essentially like a day and really take inventory of what has happened, and then plant and plan seeds for the future, what you'd like to do, how you'd like to improve. So there's like two aspects. There's the inventory, and then there's the goal setting. And when everybody's kind of doing this in this energy, you can have a chance at like a pocket can open up, so you can have this chance at gaining momentum and maybe catching a wave, right? Like the wave is forming and you're like, I want to catch this one. But I think it's important to remember a couple of the traps. This is what I've noticed over the years with New Year's resolutions and just kind of human psychology and how people try to do it right, say the next time around. Like I mentioned with Christmas, where it was a litmus test, and you have this great time to examine if you need a course correction with your wonder, with your engagement with life, with having light in the dark. The same is true with your goal setting. And when everybody's kind of doing something at the same time, talking about resolutions, you may find that there's the attitude towards it is going to be very important. I mentioned this in previous videos as well. First of all, being the own hero of your story. So taking heroic acts is something up to you. It's your choice to do. You don't have to be a hero. You can stay stagnant. You can choose the same mold, and that's a choice. That's part of the fabric of your experience. Or you're waiting for a time or a season to maybe engage more fully, or that season will happen upon you or to you in a way that you weren't expecting. So there's all sorts of different ways to look at this. But what I've noticed is that there's a common problem people mention when it comes to setting goals and resolutions. Excuse me again. Where there's normally like a peak and then a fall off period where something maybe couldn't be maintained. Classically, this could be workout routines and disciplining of a habit that you want to start, and people go into the 21 days to create a habit, and so I'm just going to stick to it, and they try to start fresh and start clean, and then January is almost finishing, or February, and then in starts the, oops, I didn't stick to it. What happened? What am I doing wrong? And then we can quickly downward spiral into these things don't work, resolutions don't work, goals don't work. I'll try again next year, or why try at all? So there's these dangerous slopes we can go on. And I think a lot of that has to do with the metaphysical and spiritual reality of goals themselves. And this is a fascinating topic because from an Eastern philosophical perspective, there's this idea that in anything that you start has its completion and end already within it. And this is symbolized by the yin-yang symbol, which has a little bit of the white in the black and a little bit of the black in the white, and then the totality of them all. Those were, I think, traditionally seen as fish eyes, but it's an interesting way to look at energy, that there's not one side that's white and one side that's black and left alone independent of themselves. There's the seeds of the other inside of it. And if you look at your goals that way, that in your goal is actually the destruction of the goal, then you can maybe be more free to choose goals that are going to be more long-lasting because they'll be more heart-centered. And I'll give an example of this in a moment. But I hope that that metaphor is clear about the yin-yang, that there's this idea of the minute you start something or you achieve something is also the actual fall of something. You can take a sports team that wins all these titles, championships in a row, and you kind of know that's not going to last forever. The beginning of the fall is actually in the achievement of the goal. And that's an interesting way to think about it. You may get the weight you wanted. You may lose the pounds that you wanted to lose. You may achieve the physical body you needed to run the race or do the thing that you needed. But within that is the notion and idea that it won't last forever. This is why, and this is a concept I brought up before about the concept of the three, is so important to involve, in my opinion, God and the divine into what you're doing, a heart-centered approach to your goal setting. An example of this from my life is in martial arts, where when I was training, there was clear levels I wanted to reach in my training and get better at. And when you reach one level, you'd like to get to the next level. But what's interesting is when I realized I just wanted to be a better overall martial artist, like I didn't want to cut corners and I wanted to be more skilled because I loved what I was doing. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed teaching it, getting into it, searching for more truths about it. Then I was ready to receive the achievement. I didn't want to shortchange it. I didn't want to earn something I didn't actually want to earn in the right way. And this is where the threshold guardian has a role of checking us, making sure, testing us that we're doing it for the right reasons. A lot of our goals can actually be put out there for the wrong reasons, maybe more head-centered or fleeting and temporary. The car, the thing, the whatever it may be. These things aren't bad to go for and to have, but it's if you want something that's lasting, that's going to actually hold and not fade after a quarter of the way in through the year, halfway through, or just for a short time, whether you're writing a story and you want to finish it. I've found personally, and please comment if you found this as well, that the long lastingness usually comes about from something that is more meaningful. So if you want to work out, really practically speaking, and you would like to be healthier, maybe if you connect it to your purpose and your meaning, like you like to be out in nature more, you like to hike more, you want to be there for your grandkids, you want to travel more, and you have this underlying reason connected to it, I think there's more potential for its success. As opposed to, say, the motivational speakers, and I'm not knocking them because, hey, any motivation where you can get it can be a good thing. But I think a lot of the times it's very mental, and it's very, discipline, motivate, set standards, go, get the vision board out, do these things, which again, on one level can be very helpful and probably necessary just to get something started. But I've noticed when it comes to truly attaining something and having that fulfillment to it in something real and long lasting, is you're not really warring with your discipline too much and forcing something and trying to make something, basically trying to speed up the process of, say, what the universe does in creating a diamond, forcing coal over millions of years to create the diamond. You're trying to speed it up. And I've just found that those things naturally backfire. And the threshold guardian, these barriers, these excellent testers know that. And in a metaphysical and spiritual sense, they won't let you really achieve the treasure. You can't slay that dragon really unless you have earned it. And this is something that can be creatively done. There's so many examples of this. You can take the classic example of Bilbo Baggins in The Hobbit, and he doesn't have to slay Smaug to try to attain what he's trying to get to, even when he's trying to help his friends, right? So you don't have to slay, kill, destroy everything, but it's how you navigate those obstacles where you're trying to expand and you notice that there's an opposing force. And that's created the moment you create the goal is the opposing, restricting force of it. This is why Bruce Lee, one of my favorite philosophers as well as martial artists, said, "No way as a way, no limit as limitation." So that it acknowledged that these natural barriers exist can hurt us. In Return of the King, I think it is, in Lord of the Rings, where he's talking to Eowyn, it might be Two Towers, where he says, "What do you fear, my lady?" And Aragorn is, he has a sword out, and she's practicing, and they touch swords, and she says, "A cage." And that's a perfect, I think, metaphor for what I'm trying to describe. Our goals can be prisons. They can be traps. And we may not see them that way because we're like, oh, I just want to have a goal. I just want to put something out there. But again, if we're wise and a little hip to how that works and how that's worked so far for us, we may begin to see as we peel back and reveal the layers underneath that, oh, we need to bring in the concept of the three. When we have some meaning and purpose to it, maybe that comes from taking inventory of your life and saying, I need to make some serious changes. Or maybe it comes from a different inspiration. Sometimes fearing what you don't want to become can be an inspiration, for at least for you to learn a little bit more, to see what that's about. And I think we can benefit from knowing that these things can have traps, that our goals can have traps. The very essence of them, from an Eastern standpoint, philosophical standpoint, kind of reminds us that we're always moving through creation, preservation, and destruction. Everything that starts has a high and then ends. This is the pride before the fall from the Western point of view of understanding that when you're in a high or when you've achieved the thing, the next kind of flow of the universe is to let it go, that it's going to go away. You can't hold that title, that thing, the achievement, the job position, the this forever. It's going to eventually go away. This is the impermanence of it all. And the dark forces, though, don't even want you to try anything. They want you to stay in the matrix, stay stuck, stay stagnant, don't even expand, don't take the heroic path, which again is a choice that you have. They want you to stay stuck. So this prison or trap is something to be aware of, because the punishment that you deal out on yourself for not achieving these goals, finishing the book, the chapter, the project, the thing, is worse than anything anybody else can do. Psychologist Jordan Peterson mentioned in his 12 Rules for Life, one of them was, don't compare yourself to who somebody else is today. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday. That's really the game here. You can't know the intricacies and very, very unique manifestations and machinations of somebody else's life. Even though they put up on social media that they're doing well and everything's fine, and it may look and have the outer appearance, or even if you know them, it may seem that everything is they're accomplishing, they're doing, but you don't know someone's heart. You don't know if that's real. You don't know what they are lacking that they have in one area but don't have in another. And that's always the case, because that void is only filled by the divine. It's only filled by God. That's something I've learned time and time again, and very much so in 2022. That we don't get away with anything, really, and nor should we, because if we earn something in the wrong season, or we're not ready for it truly, even something good that we set out as a goal, it can backfire. And then what kind of hangs in the balance is our effort to try again, our want to try again, nihilism, a hardened heart. These things can start to rear their ugly heads as we just then don't set any goals or any expectations. So I just wanted to remind you guys, even from all sorts of ways you want to look at it, a quantum physics perspective, when something exists, its opposite can exist, matter, antimatter, however you want to phrase it and look at it. Remember that when you set your new intentions, my recommendation is to bring in the three, bring in the divine, bring in something meaningful, heart-centered, something that's going to be a bit more long-lasting. Enjoy the journey, even figuring out what that is. And don't make it so much of the mind. And then move through. Again, you can enjoy this. You can set goals. You can set new things. But maybe with a little bit of the wisdom that we can share in doing that. And I'll close with the Dodgeball movie. If you ever saw Dodgeball with Vince Vaughn, he's the average Joe's Jim, and he has this great line at the end in the credits, and play it for you here, where he mentions, if you want to come and lose weight, lose a few pounds, that's great. You're perfect the way you are, but if you want to do that and meet some friends, hey, we're here for you. And I think that kind of attitude of you'd like to make some improvement, maybe take a look at what's worked, what hasn't, that kind of bringing in the wisdom of what the East and the West gives us in understanding these things can be very helpful. So cheers to you all. Comment below. Happy New Year's to you. What works for you? What has worked for you as far as goal setting? Do you not do it anymore? Have you been jaded? Like when I mentioned in Christmas, there's no Santa. Yes, there is. So it's kind of like, don't let the outside do that. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday. You can take your whole year and make it a day and do that and keep kind of measuring to yourself. And then I'd say bring in the divine, bring in what you can't compare to, where you don't have to work so hard, because he's the one truly, truly doing it. So like, subscribe, share this. Happy New Year's. Take care. Godspeed into 2023. And wherever you are, hopefully you're enjoying your journey. Peace. Get by those thresholds, guys. Take care.
I'm Peter LaFleur, owner and operator of Average Joe's Gym. You're perfect just the way you are. But if you feel like losing a few pounds and making some good friends in the process, then Joe's is the place for you.